What happens when a public official leaves office and there's no trace of what they did, how they did it, or what impact it had? Where are the details of records of public funds spent, projects executed, or promises kept? Is governance only about occupying office, or is it about building a legacy that can be traced, studied, and improved upon? In a country where political memory is short and institutional knowledge is weak, record keeping is no longer optional. It is now and have become essential. Welcome to Politics Uncensored, where we break the silence, challenge the system, and demand accountability. Today, we're tackling a subject that's often overlooked in the noisy drama of Nigerian politics, and that is documentation. This episode, we're asking, can Nigeria achieve good governance without documentation? And why is it that so few politicians leave behind a paper trail of their leadership? And most importantly, how can record keeping rebuild public trust and deepen accountability? Our goal will always be to provide a platform for honest and open discussions where experts and everyday citizens like you can share their perspectives and insights. Of course, it's always going to be your favorite show, and we have two expert guests who will be joining us very soon. I'm your host, Okikiola Taiwo Jalukwan, and you can call me the polyhumanitarian, and I'm here to make political discussions accessible to all of you. We want to hear from you because every of our episodes is all about you. So be a part of our conversations every Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays to add your voice to these discussions. You can also head on to our YouTube channel at Official Upgrade TV. Follow us on all our social media pages showing right now on the screen. Hit that subscribe button again, like, share the link, and invite your friends to join the show right now. Our phone lines are also open to you. You can call us on 070-2500-7749 and 070-1424-2420. I'll take that again, 070-2500-7749 and 070-1424-20. Let's hear what you have to say. We'll go on a break right now, and of course we'll return with our guests and take our top stories in the political space making headlines. Please do not go anywhere. We'll be right back. You are still watching Politics Uncensored, and today, as I said, we're here to discuss good governance through documentation, why politicians should prioritize record keeping. In 2015, a newly elected governor in one of Nigeria's states walked into office only to discover that there were no detailed handover notes from his predecessor, no record of ongoing contracts, no breakdown of state debt, and no documentation of federal allocations or how they were spent. It was like stepping into a vacuum. He spent the first 6 months not governing, but investigating, piecing together information that should have been clearly documented. By the time he was ready to act, half of the year was gone. And sadly, that story is not unique. Across Nigeria, transitions in power are often chaotic, undocumented, and shrouded in misery. From local governments to ministries to leaders come and go, but the system remains in the dark with little or no institutional memory. This isn't just about accountability. It's about continuity, learning, and governance that grows with time. Which brings us to today's conversations. Why are Nigerian politicians so allergic to documentation? Why is it that public office holders often treat their tenure like a private diary, not to be read, seen, or questioned? Our first guest right now is a passionate advocate for cultural preservation, legal reform, and good governance. He is the global president of the Yoruba Council Worldwide, Are Oladotun Azan, ESQ. Thank you for joining us. If I have Oladotun here.
Well, thank you. It's a pleasure to be on your program.
Wonderful. Well, alongside him, we also have a vibrant voice for youth-driven innovation, leadership development, and civic impact. He's the founder of Future Ideas Lagos and programs lead at the Wellbeing Foundation Africa. I have Daniel here. Great to have you here, Daniel.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate being here. Thank you,
Yes,
viewers.
wonderful. So before we get straight into the conversation for today, I would like your take on one of the trending political news making headlines right now, and it's about the APC new national chairman. The APC has now come out to defend Wada amidst fierce opposition over INEC ties. The emergence of the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Reduction, Professor Nentawe Uwada, has a national chairman of the All Progressive Congress, is not sitting well with some Nigerians, particularly members of the opposition. Uwada's previous role as the resident electoral commissioner with the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, is viewed by the opposition as a strategic move by President Bola Tinubu to compromise the commission's independence ahead of the 2027 general election. The new APC national chairman emerged from the National Executive Committee meeting of the party held on Thursday, 24th July 2025 at the Presidential Villa. But a lot of controversies here. One person said that this appointment has again exposed who Professor Uwada is. He's an APC. He has an APC DNA, as I said, which raises serious concerns about his neutrality in his previous assignments, through which he got the new appointment as the APC national chair. This again raises the question of how truly independent, INEC is. This person said the credibility of our democratic process cannot hinge solely on individuals, on their party affiliations, but must be built on strong, transparent, and enforceable electoral frameworks. Once our electoral laws are thoroughly reformed and institutionalized, fears of undue influence, whether real or perceived, will be significantly minimized. And this has caused a lot of controversy over the week about the new APC national chair's affiliation with INEC, and they're saying an ex-staff can't be whatever he wants to be, since he doesn't have any ties, to INEC as at now. But what do you think about it? Let me start with Daniel. What do you think about this emergence and the story surrounding the new national chair of the APC?
All right, thank you very much. I mean, the concerns of many Nigerians is very, very valid. You cannot have a former INEC national commissioner who, with all intent and purposes by the current government, brought him into the administration as the humanitarians minister, and then all of a sudden, 2 years or so down into the administration, and just over a year to the next general elections, and this person is now the national chairman of the current political party in power. Now, you can tell that it is a careful scheme, properly designed. Well, at some point, we listened to some members of the party who have been interviewed. Some will tell you, well, it is because the party's national chairman seat has been zoned to a particular zone of the country, as far as their constituency is concerned. Mm-hmm. That sounds nice to hear. But then again, why do we have a situation whereby people who are supposed to be the very, very pure center of integrity in our space, especially as our elections are concerned, are now neck deep into party politics? What exactly do they want to portray? What exactly do they want to tell us, those of us who are watching from the sidelines, Nigerians in general, that, okay, our elections will not be compromised because we have XYZ persons in power? So on a very personal note, I do not think that is the right way to go. I feel strongly that we can do better. I feel strongly that for the sake of neutrality, we should be able to choose people who have no affiliations at all to be in positions of politics. For Yawada, well, I listened to him the other day, and he sounded calm, sounded as if everything is fine. Yeah, nothing is fine as far as I am concerned, because the way our politics is designed is one that will not give you confidence at all. Is the way that will not give you that basis where you can believe that when elections are held, the true result and true test of our mandates is what will be announced at the end of the day. So that's my take.
Thank you very much, Daniel. Can I hear from Ariola Detun? What's your take on the story?
Well, we have to look at it from the prism of neutrality. And it's very important we understand the fact that every Nigerian is first a Nigerian before any appointment, either as a national chairman of APC, as a former gubernatorial candidate in Plateau State, as a former INEC REC electoral commissioner. That is his life pursuit credentials, because no one knew as at the time he was REC chairman that he's going to come in as a minister. And now, if Beta Edu had not messed up, he wouldn't have been replaced. So it was not a premeditated idea the way I see it. He just found him to be competent, maybe out of goodwill and out of character, because he has always maintained, even as a Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, he has maintained a calmness in providing succor through the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs. We don't have to be negative, even if our politicians are not, in all fairness, are all 100% perfect. And there's no politics perfect, all of us are all 100%. There's no, even in America, there are issues with their president. Everybody has their own, even to the history and documentation of Trump. Trump, at the end of the day, when he was issuing that they should sack all foreign individuals, at the end of the day, when they trace his own roots, his siblings, wife are equally guilty of the same offense, because records prove that that is what they had there. So, in all fairness, Yelta Dawa, who is now the APC national chairman, let's not be judgmental that his link as a former INEC REC electoral commissioner. What about the former IGP who is now contesting for governor in Nasarawa State? Are you going to go and shut him down that he has no right to contest? So if privilege preserve people to maintain a position, as REC electoral commissioner, did he committed any electoral offenses? No. Was it under which political party? Is it when APC or PDP was there? So we just have to look at everything, not out of the rigors of electoral affiliation or.
Okay, I think I lost Ariola Dotun this point. But really, my own opinion, why Daniel and Ariola Dotun's concerns are very valid and opinions are very valid. I think that politics is always going to be politics. The APC is playing their best game. The PDP is coming up with their best game. Just this morning, we saw Atiku openly declaring that he was going to win or take over the Ekiti governorship election for the ADC. So I believe that politics is just being played out here, and everybody is putting their best cards forward. But in all, I hope that this, in extension, works for the betterment of Nigerians and not for personal gain, as we've seen happen over the years. Whatever it is that tactics that is being brought by the APC, the PDP, or coalition of parties or individual parties, I just think that they're playing politics, and in any way that they are doing it, it should be for the betterment of Nigerians, and let it just work that way. But that's all we have on the political news making headlines today. We'll go on a quick break and then, of course, return with our hot topic for today. So do not go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Nigeria, by extension Africa, battles a growing youthful population, and with little or no meaningful engagement, leaves a ticking time bomb on our hands. We are a blessed continent with great wealth, both in people and material. Our focus on ways remains driving conversations that affects us all. Topics in the news, social concerns, politics, leadership, governance, empowerment, resource management, conflict management, finance, SME sustainability, technological innovation, food security, health, education, brain drain, our well-being, citizenship, and much more. Our goal is to continuously drive these conversations, keep them burning at the table to effect a positive change, both for our nation and continent. Ways, what are you saying, has a secret ingredient that completes the conversation every single episode, and that ingredient is you. Our past conversations shaped our yesterday. To shape our tomorrow, we must keep talking. So, I want to hear you. Be a part of our live conversations Mondays through Fridays. And let's all have our say.
Thank you for staying tuned. If you just tuned in, you are still watching Politics Uncensored, and we're here discussing good governance through documentation, why politicians should prioritize record keeping. Of course, we still have Are Oladoto here and Daniel, of course. Daniel, and let me start with Daniel. Let's start with a simple but important question. Why do you think documentation is important in public service? There's a lot of things that happen through public service, but I've noticed that most times it's always the health sector, the educational sector, basically really the educational sector, in fact. But I think I've seen more progress with documentation when it comes to the health sector. But generally, why do you think documentation is important in public service?
Once again, thank you very much. I mean, first of all, good governance in itself is simply the equitable distribution of resources across board, first of all. And now, secondly, in any accountable democracy, documentation is not just paperwork, really. It's not supposed to be paperwork. It is actually power, and it's more than power. It's more than memory. It is accountability and governance, as well as continuity. You cannot take away the place of documentation as far as good governance is concerned, particularly as regards public service. Politicians, in the real sense, are actually not supposed to be. They are not supposed to be. They are not rulers. All right, they are public servants. They are not rulers. And keeping records actually allows citizens to see what is being done in their name and what is being done with their money as well. Now, in the absence of documentation, then there is room for manipulation. There will definitely be room for misinformation. And of course, ultimately, there will be room for corruption. As at this time of our lives, we are very much aware that Nigeria loses billions upon billions annually to what we call misappropriation, what has now gained its very, very substantial presence in our lexicon. They call it budget padding. That could have been tracked with just what usually would have been just normal, proper record keeping. You understand? And what I've found out that in other climes where democracy is practiced to the best of what we would expect as a people, as little as legislative notes. Like in the U.S. Congress, legislative notes that a particular congressman probably wrote why he or she occupied that space as maybe a congressman, are kept in a box in that particular seat. The next congressperson that is coming will take those notes and see what this particular person did with the time he actually occupied in that space. Talk more of other people who are actually elected. And you mentioned a very specific thing about records has been kept even in health sector. Of course, that is the reason why every now and then when you go to the hospital, the importance of records are not overemphasized.
Yeah.
You will always be asked, what is your card number? What's your card number? And you see the person, the nurse will go to a cupboard where they keep their records, pull out your card number so that they can go through your medical history and see how it's happened, what happened. I remember having time at the Lagos University Teaching Hospital a couple of days ago, and I remember that the entire period where a relative of mine spent at the hospital, the most important thing that the next doctor will come and do is to check the records and what was documented of that particular patient. That's how important. The next doctor will not be able to do anything without having the records that was done on that particular patient, okay, or maybe stated on that particular patient in the last time. And so that's how important we need to take our records taken. And of course, maybe as time goes on in the conversation, we'll start talking about the nexus between this and data keeping, data recording in itself. So yes, that's what I think record taking is as far as good governance is concerned.
Thank you, Daniel. I've always clamored that maybe our politicians should start undergoing certain courses, the way they tell Nigerian youths to diversify, be informed, be involved. Maybe we need to start asking our politicians to start taking some courses on project management, record keeping, accountability, Excel, PowerPoint, some of these things, so that maybe at some point maybe they don't know, maybe they don't have what it takes to be able to do this. But I've always clamored for that as basic as every Nigerian who want to be informed, to apply for a job,
I can assure you they do.
To do something, maybe we should start advocating that our politicians should start going through certain simple courses that even the government have put forward for Nigerians to be able to tap into. Our politicians are as well Nigerians, so maybe that should start to apply to them too, especially the fact that they're in public service. But moving on to Areola Dotun, in your view, what's the state of record keeping among Nigerian politicians? I'm talking from federal to local government levels.
Well, in terms of record keeping is of different interpretation. Record keeping in terms of accountability and finances, record keeping in terms of administration and clerical duties, record keeping in terms of the general overview from the Nigerian perspective. From the accountability and transparency, yes, an average politician knows how much is coming into the local government, state coffers, as far as we are all concerned. Where it now comes to the issue of fidelity, probity, and transparency, that's where we need to now tackle. There is no department of government that does not have records of all its finance. That is why it's very easy for EFCC or Nigerian police, whenever they are investigating, to go into the records to find out which money is being embezzled, which money was not used for the procurement of whatever, or however, if there are fault lines or breach of laws in terms of procurement law, because there are so many agencies who just bring in their cronies, their companies to come and take up contract in the name of contract, which are not supposed to be under civil service rule. So there are a lot of infractions, legal infractions, that are now being customized as part of the rules of engagement. So in terms of our knowledge of governance, I've always suggested that average person from councillorship to chairmanship, sometimes you just pick people from the street, thinking because they have money, they are a good giver. Being an humanitarian person does not make you a good administrator or a politician. Absolutely. We mistake it here. So people say, oh, going to church, oh, it will be a good commissioner. You can have a labor union president. When he becomes to become a governor, do you expect that labor union to now bring the same mentality to governance? No, it's a different climb. We make a lot of mistakes thinking that our politicians knows it all, because there is no proper training. Even when they are being sworn in, they just go for 1 or 2 weeks picnic, thinking that is an orientation. That is not the way it's supposed to be. Even in America, for you to get to some stage of life, you get to have some credentials by going to Harvard for some special professional courses. How many of our chairman or councillor attend professional courses? Or do they even know how to keep record keeping? Or do they even have the credentials? A lot of them are private, secondary school, primary school holders. So then how do you know the capacity of those that are being appointed as ministers or commissioners? Majority of them are not even have the credential to fit into particular position they are being given. And it is now an endemic situation that for us to get it right, we need to have a new laws that regulate that for you to become XYZ as a president, you must be a professional, you must have had DSC as a qualification. If the first job of the country is given to an SSCE, that is the symptoms of failure of that country. For our country today, for you to become a president, you don't need to pass your SSCE. You just need to go through, even if it is F9 parallel, or they can give you, they can provide you a testimonial that you just went through SSCE. That spares you. But for you to become a just grade 2 teacher, somebody will tell you you must have BSc HND, you must have 10 years experience. But for you to become a president, a governor, nobody asks for your experience. Anybody that you just think you are electing within your community, do you ask questions about who you are electing from day one? We don't. We all are guilty of this. It's not just a PDP or APC thing. Anybody can just come and tell us all the garbage. Look at how Buhari came with his change mantra and all this stuff. At the end of the day, he messed up bigly. So without much ado, we need to begin to get things rightly from our educational system. The way our manner of education is even wired, is wired for failure ab initio, because you cannot go to primary from primary 1 to primary 6, which is just a waste of time. You can't spend no less than 4 years in primary education. You should be able to have all the necessary knowledge. 3 years in your tertiary education, you don't need 4 years. Even in America, their system of tertiary institution is 3 years courses. They don't go for NYSC, but yet we will go for NYSC. You will spend 1 year this, 1 year that. Those are just waste of time and delay. So for us to get it right, we've wasted much time on wastages that are not in tandem with development. Until when we program this country for development, issue of record keeping will just be by the wayside. What is most important is not that record, but the capacity of those that we are electing. They do not even know what is the meaning of record keeping. A lot of them employ specialists to come and help them to midwife their position. They employ them as SLAs. So if you want to become a senator and you don't know what lawmaking is all about, you just go there and start rubbishing the position, unlike what we are seeing at the level of Senate now. If that place were to be a disciplined house, no person will get there and say, oh, because they did not put me in a position, the camera will catch me, they will now start an infighting, embarrassing the whole nation, because there is no discipline from the head of the house to the last person in the house. Everybody seems to be on the same page. Nobody is insulated from the indiscipline. So once a country is discipline-minded and we have a law that is properly regulated, our constitution today is a decree. As a constitutional lawyer, I've argued it, that we can never have it. As a constitutional lawyer, I've argued it. If we are still operating Abdul Salami Decree 24, which does not connote the entire mind of all Nigerians. We are just caged because we want a democracy of necessity. Now we have spent over 20 years, 26 years on now, we can still get it right. There's room for improvement.
Thank you very much, Areola Dotto. And I like your last statement and even the ones you said earlier about the fact that we now have to start attaching capabilities and strict rules to the kind of people that we allow govern us in Nigeria. And I've strongly spoken about how the president, how you could come and say that you're running, owning one testimonial that you went through senior secondary school. And while a lot of other people can add the ESQ, PhD, doctor, and all of this to their name, it certain doesn't hold so much effect when it comes to still running for office. So what are we expecting from our governors, our presidents, you know, our councillors, if we don't start with what they are supposed to have, the kind of skills they're supposed to have for those roles? So I completely agree with you. But still talking about documentation, proper documentation, especially in governance, from a traditional and, you know, institutional perspective, how do we start to balance oral history? Most of the time we're just talking about it. My dad used to talk to me about what happened in the 60s, what happened in the 70s, 80s, 90s, but that's all I know. If I go online sometimes, I struggle to find some of the things that he experienced, you know, online, to be able to start to connect with what has happened in the past and what we could project to happen, you know, in the future. So I would like to ask you, how do we start to balance oral history with proper documentation, especially in
Yes,
governance?
to have the oral history balance, we must first of all look at our curriculum.
What we could project to happen, you know, in the future. So I would like to ask you, how do we start
Used to learn the advent eroded the culture of balancing our model of character. So once we can bring back history as a major compulsory subject, even within the subject of history, there must be topics that revolves around patriotism, topics that revolves around anti-corruption, topics that revolves around security and constitution, because we are not just talking about history and just reading some things like a fables, but you need to be realistic with the present. You must link history from the past to the present and to what development have there been. So the more we metamorphose from the archaic period, our present situation now is just like we are like an headless chicken. We are like a sheep without a shepherd. We are like a ship that is just sailing without a captain. We just have people that are the front burner, either as a governor, as a councillor, as a chairman, but no, a few of them know where to even navigate. They don't know. A lot of them don't even read the Constitution.
Absolutely.
Go and ask your assembly member today, from the day he was elected to the present day, can he quote one section of 1999 Constitution? No. They don't even have a knowledge of the law. No. Whenever they need to sponsor a bill, it is more like a penchant for man no man. Just want to do a kind of a choreographic model of presenting a policy, not that they even understand how to implement those laws. So we have good laws, but because we don't have a model of democracy, as far as our country is concerned today, my sister, you cannot define what model of democracy we are practicing. But from my own point of view, we are practicing a unitary system designed like a presidential system. It's unitary because our federal government is over-centralized. Without the issue, like the issue of state policing, should not even come up at all. In a democratic federal state, policing must have started from the councillorship position.
Absolutely.
Not even at the level of local government. It must have started at the level of the ward. From ward policing strategy to local government policing strategy to state policing strategy to regional policing strategy to national police. We don't have that as a layer. So arguing it would be as if, oh, some northern regions say, oh, they don't want it. If you bring another policy on tax today, people will bring it under the yoke of ethnic variation, which we are doing a whole lot of disservice to our development. Our politics, our democracy is not wired for love. It's not wired for development. It's wired, at least I've tried to describe our democracy. I've just described it like we are an election state democracy. All we run as far as democracy is electioneering, and electioneering. From day one, somebody is elected. From that same day, he's already planning for re-election.
Hariola, thank you
It's
so
not
much.
possible.
I think we need to also take this all in, because you have stated a lot of facts, and I agree with you for a lot of statements that you have made. I would want to take the tech conversation on social media to Daniel, but we'll do that after we come back from this short break. So please be on standby. We'll be right back shortly.
Life is made up of moments, some that fill us with joy, others that test our strength. Welcome to Heartlines. This is our space to explore the highs and lows of human connection, the love, the heartbreak, and resilience that shapes our life. From relationships to friendships, parenting to partnerships, and so much more. Every week, we share stories and conversations that define us, navigating love, separations, the struggles of parenting, dealing with anxiety and managing the pressures and stress of life. Real conversations that bring us closer, helping us heal, grow, and connect. So join me Mondays through Fridays at 10 p.m. for Heartlines, the show where we connect hearts, have real conversations with real people, one story at a time.
Thank you for staying tuned. You are still watching Politics Uncensored, and of course, we're discussing good governance and record keeping. How do we start to infuse record keeping and good governance in our everyday lives as Nigerians? And Ariola Dotun spoke about social media and how the reading culture has sort of depreciated amongst us. But let me take this question to Daniel. What Ariola Tutu has said, how do you now think that moving forward, technology and innovation can be used to help public officials especially start to document and publicize their activities transparently? Many times I see it in magazines, I see it in, sometimes they show it on social media, on X and this, but this is not usually transparent in that sense. We just see pictures of one street, one road, but we cannot necessarily follow through what has been done. We had the likes of Budget, Tracker, all these people come to start to help Nigerians to access, the record keeping of their individual constituencies. But let's move it from external people who are now doing this. How can it be infused into what they do, internally? Public officials especially, to start to publicize, and start to document their activities, especially transparently. And this is to Daniel.
Thank you very much. I want to, first of all, really thank the RF for his very profound and very robust conversation on this topic. You can tell that he's speaking from a place of pain. We're all sharing this pain, For what you're asking as regards social media and tech, as regards for what you're asking as regards social media and tech, as regards this is where what we call data comes into play. This is purely a data conversation, because for every record kept, the minutes of meetings, budgets, receipts, project logs, when you talk about census policy memos, it's going on in their various states. Now, data actually transforms, or should I say, yes, data transforms documentation into insight, just like I've rightly pointed out. It is also historical, which makes it actionable. I made mention of something that is related to history. Yeah. I was on social media some time ago, and I saw one of our pastors, well, I'll call him a pastor, where he was listing the number of courses that have become useless in our country. He mentioned political science. History happens to be one of them. And I don't blame him. In fact, he said useless courses. Like, what do you want to read history for? You don't want to read history to tell them what your great-grandmother looks like and all of that. And that is where our country, that is where we have dragged all of the things that we're supposed to do as a nation, as a people. That's what we have now become. And it is really, really, really bad. Now, another conversation is to see how we can also merge to data. Now, when we're able to do that, it means that we're using platforms to digitize records from ministries, agencies, and local governments. All right. Once these data or documentations are, or history or records are digitized, documents now become searchable. All right. They now become analyzable. They now become shareable. They now start creating clean data sets. Now, with all of this conversation now, we can now say, if, for instance, when the current administration came into power, they can have a clear-cut idea of what happened in the last 4 or 8 years of the previous administration. They have an idea of what is going on currently. They have an idea of what to project in the next 4 years of them being in power, right? That is what all of this conversation, that is what it draws us into. That is the reason why countries don't joke with what data is all about. That's why countries don't joke with all of these conversations that we're having currently. And you can see that countries that don't joke with data, you can see where they are compared to us. You can see how they plan their life compared to us, right? And I want to also believe that, of course, it is not like we do not have the capacity to generate the kind of data we want or keep the records that we want. I already made mention of the average capacity of an average Nigerian politician. Sometimes I try to imagine what exactly could be going on in the heads or the minds of our local government chairmen. What exactly is the genuine plan that they have for our local government areas, our communities, right? When there's no such thing as proper record keeping, data sets that will help them to plan for all of this. Now, so we need to embed data culture in documentation processes. Every record should be kept with the intent of future use for data analysis. Now, a clear example is about that, just like I mentioned earlier, a health program should document patient counts. It should do that with gender, location, cost, and not just activities. And so when we do all of these things, we now know that we can now reanalyze all of the information we've gathered. We can now strategize. We can now know how much we can plan. We can now know the budgets. We can say, okay, for this community, because of the because of probably the resources that is coming up from this area, this is how much we can plan for these people. If it is food, we can know how we can plan for these people. All right? Now, the bulk of this data is only mostly domiciled with the statistician general of the Federation. Most times, when you want to even access these records, it becomes a little bit of a problem. Sometimes it's either the data is also skewed. So these are the issues that we must discuss as time goes on. But let it be known that we cannot overspeak on this conversation as regards documentation and data.
Thank you very much, Daniel. Yes, we cannot overemphasize the importance of data for good governance and even for the future of Nigeria and Nigerians in general. But let's start to talk about consequences because we're running out of time. Do you think any public official who fails to document their tenure now start to face being banned from holding public office again? I would like Daniel to quickly give me a short answer, and then, of course, Ariola Dotun to follow after.
Oh, you mean if any public official fails to keep records?
Should we start clamoring for that if any public official who fails to document their tenure be banned from holding any other public office again?
I absolutely think it's the right way to go. But hey, it's a long call. It's going to be a long call. You and I know this. But the truth is that it simply means that if we're unable to keep data, it's going to tell so much on our performance as a people. It's going to tell so much on the kind of governance style that we're going to keep. Ares said that we don't even understand the kind of democracy that we practice. And I honestly don't understand it either. All right. And so if we continue on this trajectory, it simply means that we're not going to get exactly where we need to be. All right. We're not going to get there.
Thank you
that
very
simple. So
much.
yes, I
Ariola
support
Datu.
the idea that we should
Okay.
be able to do that if we can.
Okay. Thank you. Ariola Datu, can I hear from you quickly?
Yes, I can. Well, in respect of the consequences, even in your school, there are regulatory government agency. Where lies the regulatory agency that will score you, that will even take all those your records? No, you cannot expect somebody to be his own teacher and you expect him not to score himself rightly. Every politician will come, they will maneuver, they will bring in, they can even bring in fake documents.
Yes.
They can even bring in fictitious documents to
Yes.
cover up. Then who is monitoring those documents? Without
Absolutely.
EFCC, does EFCC has a monitoring capacity? No. EFCC will never go into a case except you have been invited. It will only be a good omen before you come into government. EFCC will screen you. While you are in government, they will keep to screen you. Every day-to-day activities, they should have your records. Not until aftermath that they will now be asking the governor to come and explain. Who will not explain something to favor himself?
Absolutely.
Even if they have maneuvered, they will go and cover up. They use political connection to cover themselves up. Then who is at the detriment? The citizen. Until we begin to have punishment of capital offense for offenders or political office holder. If you steal money, you should go in for the same person that commit murder, because you have killed a lot of people by the fact that you have stole that money for that hospital. People died as a result. You stole that money for the education. People do not get the right education because somebody somewhere is amassing wealth illicitly. So we need to have a proper accountability measures, proper punitive measures, proper measures that will bring about development. So it goes in different ways in order for us to have a complete holistic development of our democracy. So one very issue that currently bedevils our constitution today, our democracy today, is our constitution. And I'm sure, my sister, do you know our constitution till tomorrow is still a military decree?
Absolutely.
We are yet to have a democratic constitution. And that is the bane of the problem the country is being faced with today, because in our constitution today, you have a Sharia law and you have a common law. It's a total confusion. You cannot have two national law in one document. So how do we regularize those problems? There are a lot of problems that are endemic that we are so distracted away from. Until we begin to serve solutions, we have a unicameral legislation at the national level. We don't need one House of Reps and the House of Senate. Those are just waste of time. If you can have a unicameral legislation at the state level, why do you need a double legislative house at the federal level? And everything is just a cumbersome confusion. And we're not moving. We are just stagnated. So we have a long way to freedom. But I'm confident that the present administration will see beyond political electioneering, take us to where we ought to be by giving us a new people's constitution, by providing the fact that they provided autonomy for local government is not enough. Beyond local, what about the implementation? What about the laws? So there must be consequences for governors that disobey laws. So that is where we are as the people. We need democratic discipline to stabilize our democracy. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ariola Dotun. Because we are running out of time, I really want to know, in 30 seconds, what's the biggest governance disaster that you have seen due to poor documentation? Quickly, in 30 seconds.
Well, there have been a lot of disaster. If you look at the way we are today, because of lack of documentation, we are in a very messy situation as a country.
Even in corruption.
There's no proper accountability and nobody is probing them. There is now a coalition of the same people that enrich themselves corruptly. So we need to have a standard gauge. Until we have that standard gauge, we'll come back to have a comatose of the kind of problem we had during the NSAS, whereby millions of some youth were killed and nobody is being punished today, is because of our lack of laws and proper documentation. So we need to solve our problem as a genuine Democrat. We must be patriotic to love our country. And that is the best way we can go.
Thank you very much, Are Oladotun, for that ending statement. We must be patriotic to our country. I really want to hear from Daniel as we wrap up today's conversation.
Well, I don't know. I don't know which one to pick. There are a lot of them where I think we just need an overhaul of our system. We need an entire renaissance. I think we need to, when you break down a house to rebuild it, that's exactly what we need as a people. And it's just not the government side, even us as a people. Corruption is endemic. Corruption has eaten into the very fabrics of our very human existence as a people. And I don't know how best, I honestly don't know how best and how quick we can come out of this whole mess. And Ari has said it, we need to be patriotic and look for, and make sure we just have a positive outlook for our country. And we hope that things will turn out to be best. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Daniel, and of course, Ariola too. But as we close today's conversation, one thing is very clear, and even our guests have mentioned that leadership without documentation is like building a house with no foundation. And this applies to many cases where you may decorate the front, but the structure will always collapse when it matters the most. Too many of our leaders leave office with no trace, no written achievements, no project audits, no lessons learned. And at this point, governance becomes a game of stories instead of statistics. But here's the truth. Record keeping is power. Daniel mentioned that record keeping is power. It protects legacy, builds continuity, and gives the people tools to demand better. So if our politicians truly care about the development, they must start to document it. And if they want to inspire future generations, they must leave a trail of knowledge. And if they want to earn our trust as Nigerians, the evidence must be more than words. It must be written, accessible, and verifiable. This is Politics Uncensored. And until next time, I hope you stay aware, you stay informed. Before I go, do ensure you subscribe to our YouTube channel at Official Upgrade TV. Keep learning, keep staying informed. I'll see you again on Wednesday. Bye-bye.